Thank you, Subiksha. Namaste and good afternoon. Thank you again for your participation today. My name is Siddhartha Rayamajhi, and on behalf of the research team, I'll be presenting the key findings of the Nepal Competitiveness Index report. So, a quick overview of the session today. We will begin with an introduction of the Nepal Competitiveness Index report, followed by a run-through of the research methodology. We will then move on the key findings of the competitiveness ranking for each province. Like the previous year, our team has also taken perception survey this year to make the report further robust. So we'll be presenting the insights from that survey and end by sharing an analysis on fiscal federalism and provincial performance in Nepal and its relevance to the overall provincial competitiveness. The Nepal Competitiveness Index is an ongoing research collaboration between the Nepal Institute for Policy Research and Asia Competitiveness Institute at the Kuan School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore. Our inaugural edition of the report was first published in 2022, followed by the third year last year, which had the thematic focus on LDC graduation plans. Building upon the past works, this year the report features a thematic focus on fiscal federalism and provincial performance, especially analyzing the Nepal's governance in the wake of recent Gen Z-led protest. Talking about the study framework, we developed this methodology at the Asia Competitiveness Institute. We have assessed Nepal provinces through 4 environments, and we have made sure to contextualize them so that it best represents the realities on the ground levels of Nepal. These 4 environments can be viewed as quadrants, each contributing an equal weight of 25% to the overall competitiveness ranking. The 4 environments are further divided into 11 sub-environments and include 64 indicators. An important point to note here is that a particular environment or sub-environment may have 1 or more indicators based on the availability of data in which we have taken proxy values. So the first environment, macroeconomic stability, considers key economic indicators to measure the overall economic performance of the provinces. For example, data on each province, gross state domestic product, openness to trade, foreign direct investment, among others, are also included. The second environment, government and institutional setting, mainly encompasses factors that reflect provinces' overall governance system, fiscal sustainability, service delivery, and accountability. This includes indicators such as budget balance, government revenue, and expenditure. The third environment is financial, business, and manpower conditions, measures the aspect related to financial access, labor productivity, unemployment rates, and so on. Finally, the fourth one, the quality of life and infrastructure development, includes the aspect related to human development, such as the quality of education and health services. Furthermore, it also encompasses factors that reflect the state of physical infrastructure in a particular province. And lastly, in order to present a more robust reflection on the province capacity, this study also includes the what-if analysis, which is based on a hypothetical improvement of the weakest indicator of each province, and aim of this is to answer the question about what areas really need to be improved to make the province more competitive. And our hope is that would be relevant for the policymakers in identifying specific areas of need in each province and also recognize the strength which can be leveraged to improve their overall competitiveness. So for this edition of the report, we have utilized publicly available data from the Government of Nepal for the years 2024 and 25, including census data, monthly and quarterly reports published by Nepal Rashtra Bank, periodic data released by Ministry of Finance, and as well as data sources from relevant authorities. In addition to this, our analysis also incorporates literature review and stakeholder consultations to validate our initial findings. And finally, we have utilized historical data and trends to calculate proxy values for some of the indicators. Now, moving on to the overall ranking, it is consistent with the previous year result, that is Bagmati ranks as the most competitive province, followed by Lumbini, Gandaki, Kosi, and Madhes. In contrast, Sudur Paschim and Karnali rank at the bottom, and we will diagnose the provincial ranking under the 4 environments in the coming slide. As you can see in the slide, the number indicates the ranking in that particular year. If there is any improvement in the ranking, we have color coded with the green. Red represents a decline in ranking, and orange represents that it remained unchanged for the years. So you can see in the table that while Kosi maintains its positions as the second most competitive province for the 3 continued years from 2019 to 2021, its performance declined since 2022 to 25, driven primarily by weak performance under the macroeconomic stability environment. However, we have also seen improvement in indicators under the government and institutional setting, likely supported by initiatives such as formulating and approving 4 laws and additional efforts such as formulation of management audit and guideline and public accountability guidelines to enhance governance, transparency, and efficiency. Moving to the Madhes, Madhes overall competitiveness ranking has unchanged for the past 4 years. However, in the recent year 24 and 25, it has declined to 6th rank. So while Madhes has been quite vocal about the transfer of rights granted by Constitution from the federal to provincial level, it has also seen changes executing their plans and policies in line with the demands of federal government coalitions. This has led to stagnant growth and weak performance of indicators, particularly under the government and institutional setting. Many of the indicators that reflect the state of quality and infrastructure development has also been falling behind in the past 3 years. If you look at 23 to 25, the last row indicates this education and decline, and we have seen this is primarily driven by the key education and health related indicators. So despite pioneering formulation of pro-provincial growth plans and policies, it has consistently ranked as one of the most lagging performers. So strengthening political institutions, promoting stability, and ensuring a clear regulation for business to thrive therefore should be a priority for Madhes province. Moving on the Bagmati, it's very obvious that it's ranked as the top performing province for the 8 years in a row. This remains true for its performance across all 4 environments, but it's also important to note that this competitiveness can partly be credited to robust infrastructure and higher presence of private sector with the province before the federal structure was introduced. The gap between the Bagmati's performance and the rest of the provinces has continued to widen, as we have seen throughout time in the analysis of the report. So distributing resources that will maintain Bagmati's growth will significantly building the capacities of other provinces will be crucial for policymakers to consider. Moving on to the Gandaki, ranking has improved in the last year, driven by the optimism around the opening of Pokhara International Airport, which may have boosted the private sector confidence and economic activities. However, in 2023, sluggish tourism and lower than expected economic growth significantly impacted Gandaki's performance. So implementing regular monitoring and accountability of major infrastructure project will be an important step to consider moving forward to fully realize the potential impact of such projects on livelihoods at the ground level. Performance in governance and institutional setting environment has also declined, which highlights the increasing dissatisfaction among public. Therefore, the urgent reforms will be important to address administrative inefficiencies and restore confidence in the provincial government. On the other hand, when we look at the Gandaki, it also performs particularly well under the quality of life and infrastructure development. So to address these disparities, Gandaki's balanced growth approach could provide key lessons for other provinces, promoting local entrepreneurship through targeted funding, training programs, and investing in the development of micro-enterprises in agriculture and financial services can help regional economic vibrancy. So Lumbini's overall competitiveness has demonstrated significant variance over the 8-year study period, while its ranking repositioning between the 2nd to 4th place as it responds to evolving economic conditions. The performance remains anchored by strong, consistent result in the macroeconomic stability and government and institutional setting, both of which have maintained the high rank of 2nd over the last 2 years. A few crucial factors may have contributed to this, including the formal opening of Nepal's second international airport in Bhaira in 2022, the smooth operation of cross-border trade and activities, and the normalization of industrial activities. Its performance in financial, business, and manpower condition and quality of life has stagnated and remains unchanged throughout the years of our analysis. So reevaluating the private sector incentives across multiple sectors could prove critical in identifying strategic drivers that could enhance its economic competitiveness. Cornell's performance is weakened across all four environments, and it also ranks the bottom of 7 provinces. So many of the Cornell challenges stem from its complex geography, which limits the ability to fully capitalize on trade opportunities and develop a road and transport infrastructure. For example, it has to rely mostly on the available Nepal-India border custom points in Lumbini for global trade. Its rough terrain also doesn't allow for the provinces to build extensive road infrastructure. As a result, it has consistently ranked among the most lagging performance among the provinces. But comparing Karnali's performance between the 8 years period, while its overall ranking has remained unchanged, its performance under the quality of life has improved, as you can see with the green mark at the bottom of the slide. So the last province, Sudur Pasim, has also ranked at the bottom and is one of the biggest and one of the most lagging performance. So this mainly results from the Sudur Pasim complicated geographic terrain, poorly developed infrastructure, and custom point for cross-border trade, and also have highly volatile provincial politics for the past 7 years. There has been a slight change in the overall competitiveness ranking, as you can see in the slide. However, its performance under the quality of life and infrastructure development environment is stagnant since 2023, which may be driven by the key factor in health-related indicators such as quality, air quality, and adequacy of hospitals. So increasing investment in primary healthcare services, particularly in hard-to-reach the province, and needs to be continued priority for Sudur Pasim. Now I'd like to move to the next part of the presentation, that is Provincial Competitiveness Survey. The first part of the presentation was the findings from the overall provincial competitiveness based on the 64 indicators from government data. So now the perception survey explores how these rankings are perceived at the ground level. An important point to note here is that we have designed our survey questionnaire based on the framework of NCI for environments to capture the nuanced realities of each province. I think the survey is important mainly for the 3 reasons. First, it identifies the discrepancies between the recorded government data and the real-time experience of businesses, which offers a more holistic and realistic view of provincial competitiveness. Talking about the methodology, respondents were selected through a mix of sampling methods such as stratified, convenience, snowball, and purposive. So the total sample size of the respondents are to 140 business executives representing all 7 provinces, that is 20 business executives from each province. So the targeted respondents were from the executive committee members of business federations at the provincial and district level. The survey took place in October 25, a few weeks after Nepal's Genji protest. Moving to the environment-wise finding, to start with the macroeconomic stability. So business executives were asked to assess their satisfaction with their province's overall economic growth. At the national level, you can see perceptions remain broadly divided with a slight predominance of dissatisfied views. Just over half of the respondents, that is almost 52%, reported dissatisfaction with overall economic growth. This represents a largely unchanged national picture compared with the previous survey round, in which perceptions were similarly mixed and concerns about uneven provincial economic performance, which were evident. If we see the province-wise picture, then Bagmati continued to record the highest level of satisfaction, with 3/4 of respondents reporting that they were satisfied with the overall economic growth. In contrast, Karnali and Sudur Pasim continued to record negative perceptions. So in Karnali, 9 in 10 respondents were dissatisfied with overall economic growth, whereas approximately 3/4 of respondents in Sudur Pasim reported dissatisfaction. So these findings closely mirror those of the previous year, owing to the persistent structural challenge and perceived exclusion from broader economic gains. So moving to the government and institutional setting environment, the figure clearly shows that the majority of the business executives perceive the process of registering a business as relatively easy across most provinces, with national level respondents reporting an ease of registration of at least 85%. So province-wise, Bagmati, Gandagi, and Lumbini province emerged as the top performers with 95% of the respondents reported an easy registration process, indicating relatively strong administrative capacity, streamlined procedures, and better access to the information. The third environment, financial, business, and manpower conditions. So respondents were asked the questions about how would you evaluate the availability of financing sources, for example, loans and venture capital for the business opportunity in your province. So nationally, most respondents selected good, indicating modest positively overall perceptions. However, a substantial share, that is 35%, rated access as poor, which indicates that financing constraints remain widespread despite that overall tilt towards positive response. Overall, the result indicates a significant access gap across province. Bagmati, Lumbini, and Gandaki appear to have more readily available financing options, whereas Karnali and Sudurpasim face structural barriers such as limited financial networks, fewer lending paths, and lower investment, which ultimately restrict business expansion and entrepreneurship. Uh, Moving to the last environment, that is quality of life and infrastructure and development, perceptions of provincial government's responsiveness to damage to road infrastructures are important indicators of infrastructure quality, as well as of their attentiveness and resource for responding to the needs. So nationally, satisfaction with the provincial government responses to road infrastructure damage is moderate, around to 57%. Respondents in Karnali report particularly strong dissatisfaction with government inaction and inadequate response to damage to road infrastructure, with 90% expressing disconnect. So road infrastructure and connectivity are critical factors of competitiveness in Karnali, as many sectors are heavily dependent on them and have limited alternatives. So this may explain the observed results. In Bagmati and Gandaki, responses were evenly split between the dissatisfaction and satisfaction level. So this year, a central feature of Nepal Competitiveness Index report is our thematic chapter, that is on fiscal federalism and provincial budget performance. We believe that this analysis is particularly timely as it examines the subnational landscape in the post-Gen Z protest era. The new political reality has brought an intensified demand for transparency, efficiency, and a government that delivers visible results. Our research also moves beyond simple accounting to look at how federal transition is actually functioning for the people. To begin with, we identified what we call the structural pathologies, the underlying systematic issues that are currently hindering provincial success. We identified a persistent absorption gap. While funds are being allocated, there is a chronic under-absorption of capital budgets. In provinces like Karnali and Sudurpasim, the money is there, but the capacity to invest the money to build necessary infrastructure like roads, schools, and hospitals is missing. Second, we also identified the accountability deficit. Our analysis based on the latest Auditor General report shows rising inequalities, especially in the provinces like Madhes and Kochi. This isn't just a technical failure, but it also represents a growing risk to the state-citizen compact, the trust that younger generation have in their leaders. Lastly, the volatility trap. Provinces remain dependent on the federal grants because these transfers are often conditional or political sensitive. So provinces cannot engage in the long-term planning. They are trapped by the fiscal decision made in the Kathmandu rather than being empowered to solve at the local problems. Moving forward, our chapter also argues that we must shift from a compliance-based model to performance-oriented architecture. So for that, we have identified or are necessary to shift in binding constraints. We found that the primary obstacles to provincial growth is no longer just lack of funds to operate, but rather a lack of institutional capacity and quality. So the data shows that the province's ability to manage its civil service and procurement is biggest predictor of a success rather than size of budget. Second, we identified the need for linking transfer to results. We proposed that the federal government must start aligning incentives. So physical transfers should not be an automatic, they should be linked to the measurable outcomes like audit compliance and capital execution rates. Lastly, the urgency of meeting the post-Gen demands. In the post-Gen protest landscape, there is an urgent need to pivot towards investment in the productive sector, that is the digital infrastructure and human capital. This ensures the subnational spending in intergenerationally equitable and drives long-term economic growth. So there are more detail in our report. Please do have a look. And if you like to read our previous reports, please refer to our website. With this, I'd like to end my presentation, and we look forward to collaborate with the partners to develop more on this research and make more comprehensive and relevant to stockholders within and beyond Nepal. Thank you so much.